Hey everybody, welcome to the webinar on headaches, migraines, why they happen, and how you can fix them and heal from them in a natural way. My name is Dr. Peter Gonzalez from North Point Chiropractic here in Brookfield, Wisconsin, and what we're going to be discussing in this class is why headaches and migraines occur to begin with, how you can fix them at the root cause, why chiropractic care is a must with headaches and migraines, a powerful home remedy for use to manage the stress load that tends to set those headaches off to begin with, so for when you're in an episode, and how you can get customized recommendations made for your unique case and your specific needs. Now, to start off with just my story, I used to get migraines and headaches. I used to get headaches almost every day. And when I got to college, it actually hit a point where I started getting migraines pretty frequently. When I was getting those, it started with a blind spot. I lost half of my field of vision. The first couple of them, I had no idea what they were until I actually called my mom to say, hey, I got this blind spot. It's a 10 out of 10, worst pain I ever felt in my head. And the only thing I could do is sleep it off. And she said, well, that sounds like migraines. I used to get them. My grandmother used to get them. So those just continued to get worse. I wasn't really doing anything about them. I was just taking over-the-counter medication, trying to sleep them off, and they hit a point where I was getting them about 2 to 3 times a week. Fully debilitating, worst pain I ever felt headaches, losing my field of vision. It was completely interfering with my quality of life, and it was horrible. And finally, when I started getting adjusted, it took a very specific technique and style of adjustment where I actually started sweating when I got adjusted that way. I was at a seminar. I asked the doc, I said, hey, I know we're at an intermission here and I can't see. I'm having a migraine. It's getting started. What can I possibly do? So he checked me right there in the seat. He adjusted me. I started sweating because of the visceral or neurological response that happened, just removing the pressure off of my brainstem because it was that first vertebra, C1 right here. And I stopped getting migraines. And now it's been years since I've had a migraine, and I always knock on wood just to be safe. But it changed my life. It really was one of the most powerful things that's ever happened to me in terms of my quality of life and how I feel and function every single day. And that's why I put on this webinar for you guys, is I want you to hear this. I want you to see it and know that there is hope if you're having headaches and migraines. And even if they're just daily headaches that are just a little bit and they're minor, that's still your body screaming that something's wrong. And you don't want to just let that keep going because it can create permanent damage or permanent negative change. And from my experience clinically and personally, getting to the root cause of these things is something that we can do, and you don't have to live with those headaches or migraines for the rest of your life. Now, just to preface things, longevity-wise, we know that people are living to be 100. It is one of the fastest growing populations on the planet right now. And so much so that by the year 2040, they're actually projecting that the population of centenarians is going to grow by almost 800%. So why is that relevant? It's in terms of your preparation and what you do today to take care of your body. So there was a longevity crisis, or there is a longevity crisis for a lot of our parents and grandparents. They're in hospital beds, wheelchairs, and nursing homes with a laundry list of medications winding up as a human preservative versus actually enjoying their life in the last couple of decades. This is a longevity crisis because they didn't have that early warning system to know they were going to live that long. They actually wound up not preparing for it, and the action steps they took throughout their life did not set them up to enjoy and live a full life with vitality all the way up to 100, because we might live to be 100 whether we like it or not. So we better be making the action steps or taking the action steps we need in order to feel the way we're supposed to, but also make sure we're preserving our body the way that we can. Because only 30% of our aging is based on our genetics. 70% is dictated by the lifestyle choices that we make every single day in terms of how we will actually express those genes. And some sources even say it's more than that, up to 95% lifestyle and how we take care of the body, how we eat, how we exercise, taking care of your spine and nervous system, because that controls everything, will dictate how we express those genes. Because things like our digestion, things like our immune system, those are directly intertwined with your nervous system. And that's why, as a chiropractor, we talk about this so much, is what are you doing to actually function with lifestyle care and not only feel the way you're supposed to, but actually thrive as an organism. So what motivates you? Is it crisis or is it your quality of life? Because if we're just looking at crisis versus quality of life, a lot of times we're setting ourselves up for a much more difficult road and a lot more pain and suffering than has to even occur. For example, things like losing weight versus adjusting your lifestyle so that weight normalization can happen and you're not just having the yo-yo effect of constantly having these, ups and downs of doing a cleanse, then it comes back. If crisis is your primary motivator, go visit a nursing home and see what that turns into in terms of your old age or as you age and how you function through that process. Those individuals are losing their independence. It's a horrible thing to see, but it is not something that just has to be when you get old. So make the changes that you know you need to make now and make those your new 100-year lifestyle. To understand where headaches come from to begin with, I want you just to understand how the body develops and forms, because this perfectly ties us into how we can fix them at that root cause. Now, the first thing to develop in utero is a little line of cells called the primitive streak. That's what becomes the central nervous system, or spinal cord, and the brain. And now from there, just like a tree has a trunk and branches grow off of that, grows a bunch of branches, which are our nerves, and then our heart, liver, our skin, our immune system, our digestive system, our muscles, all of that branches off from the nerves that are tied directly to the central spinal cord that go up to the brain, and through every phase of life that must be kept in perfect health, because that's what controls everything. It's so important that our brain said, hey, let's put some bone around this thing. So we have our spinal column, and that's where if there's damage to this, if there are misalignments, what are called subluxations in the spine, if the curves are not in the right place, like our neck should be a nice smooth C curve, if that's not where it should be, that's when we start getting strain and stress and pressure on the nerves, which creates damage and symptoms over time. So stop chasing the symptoms, look to function, and if we restore that, the symptoms disappear and go away for good. This is why chiropractic care is so effective when fixing migraines and headaches. It must be customized to the individual down to how we actually adjust, because it's not all the same with everything's just twist, pop, crack, or everything's just using an instrument or just decompression. There's so many ways to go about it, and everybody has bio-individuality. So customizing care to what your body really needs is absolutely crucial to make these changes long-term so that they don't keep coming back. Because that, in terms of how we adjust, is looking to truly correct the problem at the root cause. And once that is accomplished, headaches and migraines just simply do not exist. They don't exist in a healthy body because the nervous system is free of interference. And when the nervous system is free of interference, the body can heal on its own as long as we just continue to give it the right tools. So with headaches, there's a couple of different types. We have things like sinus headaches, cluster headaches, tension headaches, migraines. There are others, but these are really the main categories. Sinus headaches, just off the bat, one thing to keep in mind is you may actually have that pain coming across here, and if it is due to an infection that is not resolving, sometimes that might need, you might need to manage that with your medical doctor in order to resolve that infection. Cluster headaches tend to be right behind an eye and really, really concentrated. If you have cluster headaches, the first thing to look at is alcohol. It can be a common offender for this, and if that's the case, make sure you are just cutting alcohol out if you can, or at least limiting your exposure to alcohol, because it can be such a detrimental piece of cluster headaches. Doesn't mean it's the whole thing. You might have those without even consuming alcohol at all, but it's something to keep in mind. Tension headaches tend to be the hat band, kind of like a sweatband around your head type of tension and pain, and migraines tend to be more on one side. They're usually that 10 out of 10 worst pain you ever had, and they often come with what's called a prodrome. And a prodrome is the blind spot, sometimes loss of vision, sometimes blurred vision. Atypical migraines even sometimes have things like, or symptoms like, strange smells, or I've heard people having things like feeling their fingers feel wet. And then within 20 to 30 minutes, usually that's when the pain hits. The reason that happens, and the reason all of these kinds of headaches can be neurological and how those weird prodromes happen, is because it is a depolarization event in the brain. So for you to just kind of think about it and visualize this, imagine a drop of water hitting a bucket. And when that drop of water hits the bucket of water, there's a ripple effect that happens. And what's happening in your brain is whatever stressor has pushed you over your symptom threshold is creating this one little spot of depolarization, or imagine just all the electricity in the brain short circuits, if you will. From there is a ripple across the brain, and after that depolarization occurs, that's when the blood vessels react, that's when the muscles start to react and get tight, and that's when you get the pain. The depolarization event typically happens in the occipital lobe of the brain, and that is why the prodrome, or precursor to the headaches, is typically ocular in nature. You start to see that blind spot because it's starting in that occipital lobe, which is where vision is controlled. And then it spreads beyond that, which is why the blind spot usually tends to seem like it's expanding and then disappears, or sometimes stays there when the pain actually hits. This falls back to stopping the stress threshold from reaching its tipping point. If your body has a lot of stressors in it at all times, that is what is putting you, imagine it as a bucket that's about to overflow, and overflowing is the symptoms. So if that bucket is overflowing, or it's about to overflow, all it takes is one stressor to tip it over and start to create the headache or create the migraine. Now the nervous system, you're keeping that healthy, is what the stress adaptation is, so you can turn the spigot on at the bottom of the bucket to actually drain the thing. So if you can keep that healthy, you'll drain the bucket, and no matter how many stressors you're putting in there, as long as that's functioning well, it'll either mediate it, if not resolve the problem, because you're not overflowing in terms of that bucket. Again, that's your stress threshold that we don't want to push over. Nerve compression keeps your body in a constant state of stress, and if that's the case, in addition to the stressors that are on your body that can set this thing off, now you have a dimmer switch on the entire system that fights against that. This can be nutritional, it can be environmental, it can be emotional, it can be physical. With nerve system strain in the body, your body cannot adapt to the environment appropriately. Your structure, your spine, your nervous system, that is your essential innervation. It is your body's natural IT system, so just think about it like a computer. And the purpose of the nervous system is to control and coordinate the function of every organ, cell, and tissue in the entire body so you can adapt to your environment. And that's why sometimes things like seasonal changes, or changes in pressure, or eating really bad, or just additional emotional stress can set things off because your body is no longer able to adapt to the environment because the nervous system is under strain and can't function at 100%. It only takes about the weight of a dime on a nerve to create the problem. That same amount of pressure can actually interfere with the nutrition to the nerve and starve it of its nutrients. Stretching a nerve by just 6% can decrease the strength of the impulse by about 70%. That's exponential. That's huge. So if you see things like the person with their head really far forward, that's not just something that looks bad. That is actually a problem of neural stretch, and it's stretching the spinal cord, which is massive, and that can actually create permanent damage over time. It only takes about 2 weeks of immobilization or those vertebrae not moving right to create scar tissue on the bone. So just ask yourself, how many 2 weeks has that been? Because as we see in the middle of the slide here, nerve compression can exist without pain. So a lot of times we see people come in and they say, hey, this started bugging me the last couple of years or the last couple of months. We take a look at X-ray analysis and find that there's been a problem there for 20 years. So making sure that you are getting checked to keep the health of your spine and nervous system at the top of its game is so important, because sometimes this sneaks up on us because we don't see it coming. Or there was an issue that kind of self-resolved and it shows up here and there, and it still creates permanent damage that could have been prevented. So when we look at a lack of structural integrity, looking at this film here, this X-ray shows us perfectly where poor neural function can occur from structural problems. So this is looking at somebody from the front. We're looking right through their mouth in the middle here. And the way the structures are lining up, you can see those lines converging. They should be completely parallel with each other and perpendicular to the ground, and that line that goes straight from the nasium or nasal passage down through the central part of all the vertebrae. And you can see this person has this major head tilt. So now we have nerve compression at the brainstem, at that upper cervical area, and we have a lot of stretch happening on the other nerves that are exiting. And when we have this lack of structural integrity, gravity never quits. And poor neural and vascular function created by this, so less blood flow up and down from the brain, now the nerves controlling everything in your body talking to your brain are compressed. This creates global stress in the body, and your body can no longer adapt to stress effectively, no matter what the stress load or therapies used to help the symptoms. When we see things like posture, this is huge. This is that person with the head too far forward. This is text neck. This is children staring at iPads and cell phones with their head all the way down. Gravity doesn't quit, and every inch forward your ear goes from your shoulder adds about another 10 pounds of pressure or so on all of the structures in your spine, including the nerves, including the bone, including the discs. And this problem what this individual has is going to create a lot of permanent damage if it's not corrected right away. This curve in the spine should be reversed of what this is. It should be opposite of what this picture shows. So when you see the blue arrows kind of in that curvature, it should be going the other direction because that keeps us like a spring up against gravity. That 31 millimeters should be 0 because that line coming down from where the pituitary gland sits should intersect the third vertebra. That atlas angle should be closer to 18 to 28 degrees. It's almost at 0 as well. And that 25.6, that angle should also be 0. So it's showing us that this person's neck is just doing this backwards nosedive, and it is creating so much pressure on the brainstem, all the nerves in the neck, and putting strain on the structural pieces of it that it's creating permanent damage. This poor posture, and usually the head is leading everything, and you start to see the rounded forward shoulders. Poor posture increases stress on not only the brainstem, the spine, but also the heart, the lungs, the diaphragm. Mechanical stress affects us down to the cellular level. There's research that shows us that that kind of mechanical force or closed posture or strain or stress or kink in the head or too far forward will actually influence how the cell on a genetic level will transcribe proteins and how that cell expresses what it's supposed to. So a skin cell creating more skin cells, or a liver cell trying to create certain enzymes and proteins to process through certain parts of the blood. Whatever is happening, the mechanical stress creates a huge stressor on that system and it can't function the way it's supposed to. So that's why when we see this, it is a much bigger deal than we often are led to believe. So how do we fix headaches? Chiropractic care is a must, and it has to be customized to you to remove neural stress, correct spinal curves, and restore normal human physiology. It's safe, it's gentle, it's designed to allow you to heal from the inside out. In our office specifically, our process is we do an exam, a thorough history, so we'll talk through it. During the exam, then we'll do some neurologically based testing to see where the problem actually is at the root cause. We typically look at X-rays, depending on what the situation is, to see what all those structures are actually doing, all the curvatures through the whole spine, and we look at it from a vitalistic perspective. It is not just machine parts stuck together. The body is one human. So how do we look through the entire system to find dysfunction on a neurological and structural level and correct it, and do that through specific adjustments and home care designed for you? We correct the subluxation, which is that misalignment, and when we do that, the body will then thrive. How we actually adjust depends on the individual. Sometimes it's more of a technique based on the fascia. Super gentle, we're barely even touching you. It's releasing the fascia so you can unwind and stand up against gravity more appropriately. A lot of times using a tool like this is called an activator. In our office, our doctors are advanced certified in activator. It is soft on the end. It is extremely gentle, but it will actually move the vertebra just as much as by hand, but it's more specific. So we can get really, really precise about how we adjust. And with this technique, there's no twist, pop, crack. Not that that's wrong, but this is a very gentle way to go about it. And I've had people that are anywhere from bodybuilders to children and anywhere in between where they respond better to this in our clinical experience. We also do more manual adjusting if necessary. Just depends on the case and what the individual responds to better. So again, getting our recommendations customizes that to what your goals are, what your needs are, and what's going to get you the fastest, most long-lasting results and sets you up for keeping a healthy spine and nervous system through every phase of your life. Here's a nice home care or home technique that you can use. These are called binaural beats. Binaural beats are something that you can just go on YouTube and type in binaural beats for migraines. If you are in an episode and you have a headache or you have a migraine, plug in your headphones, put these in your ears, and listen to the binaural beats. They're kind of low tones that play and actually affect our brain waves to come down to a more calm state. Pulls us from that fight or flight mode toward rest and digest or parasympathetic mode so that our brain can relax, the brain waves can calm down, and it will typically reduce the pain and duration of headaches or migraines. Phenomenal thing for you to try out. This is something I personally used. It took me a while to find something like this, but it actually was very effective. Even if you're driving and having a migraine or headache, utilizing these can be pretty effective just to help you at least get through the day or get through that current situation. What else can you do during an episode? Essential oils are a phenomenal tool to use to help you through those episodes. Things like peppermint oil, which are very soothing, can be placed on the temples. You can use that to actually use the cooling effect of the peppermint to give you some pain relief. There are other ways to utilize those, so make sure you're consulting an expert in that to get what's best for you. Getting adjusted, to me, is the most important. Yes, it can stop a migraine from happening if it's catching it early enough, although often, since it's that drop of water hitting a bucket, if it's progressed too far, it may just have to run its course. But getting adjusted is probably the best thing you can do to make sure that you are stimulating the nervous system and removing any interference that might have created it. And then something you can do at home that's huge as well is posturing up and doing some breathing exercises. What I would recommend is that you sit up really tall. Even if you feel like you need to get into fetal position, close your eyes, just do this first to get more oxygen to your brain. Sit up tall, head over shoulders, roll your shoulders back, and take about 10 deep breaths, belly breathing, all the way to the bottom of your lungs. Take the big deep breath in, and then let it all the way out nice and slow. This will not only get more oxygen to your brain, having good posture through it will help open up your lungs to get more oxygen in that way, gets the ribs moving properly, and it brings, again, you from that fight or flight mode or sympathetic state to parasympathetic rest and digest, and it'll help reduce the strain and stress there. Long-term changes, especially with chronic headaches, we always want to look back to the pillars of health. The pillars of health are designed around your 100-year lifestyle and are put into this lovely acronym for you called fitness. And it's really the N squared ESS, where you can use that acronym to focus on the pillars of health so that you are not always swimming upstream against stressors in your life. This is long-term change. This is big picture stuff. So the neurology and the structure, your body can't function without a healthy nervous system, and the structure often dictates that function. So we need good mobility, good spinal curvatures. The neurology, making sure you're getting adjusted to stay on top of that, is really, really important. Nutrition, endurance, and strength right in the middle there. Nutrition, you are what you eat. You are what you can process first, so that's where the neurology comes first. But then you need to make sure you're feeding your body appropriately. We are natural organic beings, therefore eating natural organic foods is what our body thrives on. So cutting out the processed food is the number one most important thing you can do. The more processed, the more stressful for your body, and that might even directly be creating your headaches or migraines. That is a fairly detailed thing to look through. Feel free to reach out if you want any more information on that. Endurance and strength, those are things that I can't do for you, but we're here to support you through that, making sure you have good cardiovascular health, anywhere from running to walking, whatever works best for you, and strength, making sure you maintain your independence. If you lose your strength, you lose your independence, and the elderly person who can't get up off the couch because they're too weak is typically not just because they're old, it's because they lost their muscle mass and they can no longer carry their own body weight effectively. So focus on these pillars of health. Keep this in mind at all times to make sure that you are not always swimming upstream against stress, when you can instead make that critical transition to lifestyle care. Focus on these things. Focus on quality of life and function over anything else. Now, when it comes to Xray, there's 3 different individuals here. Person on the right has a normal, healthy spinal curve. We're looking at the neck from the side. Where those white arrows are pointing is where the disc spacing is. The nerves on the back end of the spine are coming out uncompromised, healthy, up against gravity the way it should. The person in the middle has a flattened out curve, so if there's a subluxation or misalignment or damage that has not been fixed, we start to get loss of the curvature and reversal of the curve. And where the white arrow is, you can actually see that there is a nice healthy disc. Where the red arrow is a bunch of osteoarthritis or permanent damage and wear and tear on the discs. And the person on the far left here under no care, that person has a reversal of the curve. They have major bone spurs. They have osteoarthritis and degenerative disc disease, and almost a total fusion after C6 there, between C6 and C7. So you can only imagine how much room the nerves have to exit is almost non-existent. So the difference between these people is not their age. It's not, hey, old person, young person. The person on the far right underwent chiropractic lifestyle care. They focused on getting adjusted, just like you go to a dentist periodically to really maintain a healthy spine and nervous system. It's based on function, not pain. When they had pain or they had an issue or had an injury, yes, they might need to go a little more frequently, but otherwise it's nice and spaced out and based on the intensity of your life and the underlying condition of your spine. And they maintained it, while the person in the middle here had crisis care only. It's better than nothing, but it still allowed for damage to happen. They got pain. They said, hey, let me take some over-the-counter medication. I'll get adjusted real quick. I'll feel better, and I'll wait till it hurts again. Yes, we will serve people that want to go about it that way. It is not my best recommendation. It's better than nothing, but it still allows for damage to occur, and eventually this catches up to you. And the person on the far end, where it says no care, did nothing about taking care of their spine and nervous system, and we see a lot of permanent damage that could have been prevented. Yes, that person can be helped. You can regain function, stop it from getting worse, but they'll probably not get back to 100% because you cannot get rid of those bone spurs. So when we look at these three individuals, they're all exactly 50 years old at the time of the X-ray. The only difference is how they took care of their body and their life and how they focused on lifestyle care versus crisis care versus doing nothing for their body to begin with. Amazing resources on our website as well as on our Facebook and Instagram. We'll always be sharing articles and amazing stuff on our website on the top bar. This is on npchiropractic.com. You'll see health articles. You can find ones like this on articles or information on how to be a least vulnerable person, especially in the situation we're in right now with the pandemic. Making sure that you're taking care of your body and focusing on your health is huge. On our Facebook, we'll always be sharing stuff, so make sure you check those out and go to our events to find other live webinars that we're going to be doing with you guys, answering questions on the spot, posting about all different events that we're doing, some upcoming, and you can always find these cycling through because we'll keep these going on our website, npchiropractic.com/events, or on our Facebook under events. You can find 100 Healthy Days, a vision for lifelong change, nutrition, a matter of magnitude, and how to read your labels. Mobility, the effect on your structure and longevity, and then fitness to touch on what we just mentioned before, and talking about how movement is life. Those events, again, to keep updated on those, look on our website to see what's coming next and when they are. A lot of them will be webinars just like this one. Some will be live webinars that we're doing, answering questions as we go, and workshops, and some will be in office, which you'll find on there to see our address and how to find us and how to sign up. And finally, in closing, I want you guys to have access to care. And the reason I want you to have access to this, to be able to try it out and see if it's a good fit, is because chiropractic care changed my life. It saved my life. It changed things so drastically that I actually changed gears in terms of what I was doing, what I wanted to do for a living, and I dedicated my life to this and became a chiropractor. That's how impactful it was for me. So I'm not saying you got to go to chiropractic school for this. All I'm saying is get our recommendations and see how chiropractic customized to you, down to how we adjust, down to what the frequency is, down to how we need to correct spinal curves and give you home care, whatever it is. See how that can change your life, especially with headaches and migraines. Your body's screaming at you to say, get help, something's not right. Especially if children are experiencing headaches and migraines. That's a very, very big deal because a child should never have headaches or migraines, and that means that there is so much happening in terms of a stress load that they're already experiencing it, and nobody should have headaches or migraines. There are no normal headaches. The normal headaches simply don't exist. That is the body saying something's wrong, so get help, see if we can help you out. This is the $50 new patient special. Now for $50, you can get the full exam, full spinal x-rays, and your first adjustment along with our recommendations for $50 instead of the normal $200. It is normally $200, and we're giving this at a huge discount because, again, I want you to come in, get our recommendations, and see if this is a good fit for you. If it's not, we're not going to chase after you. And if you decide after we go over your recommendations that you don't even want to be adjusted, there's no pressure to do so. But I highly encourage you to explore this. Come in, talk to me directly, see how we can help if you're experiencing these things, because I am very, very confident that we can help you and resolve this problem at the root cause so it does not keep coming back. To fill that out, just go on npchiropractic.com/new patient special, or simply click on the link directly below this. Or if you really feel more comfortable, you can always just email me directly at drpete@npchiropractic.com. Filling out the form below simply gives us your information to reach out and get something scheduled. And if you're not sure if we can help you, feel free to write in the comments down there. Request a free consult, free phone consultation, and I can reach out directly and discuss things before you get scheduled to come in. I really appreciate your time. Thank you guys for being on the call with us or being on the webinar. And if you have any questions, feel free to reach out. I look forward to working with you guys soon.